All right, welcome into the Collector's Desk. My name is Steve Johnston, the current toy expert at History's Pawn Stars and producer of PokeCon LV, as well as the Unrivaled Show and much more. Up in the top center, just pounding his energy drink away. He's teasing me because he knows I didn't get coffee. Mr. Brendan Allen, out in Bakersfield, California. Senior editor, comiccon.com, and Giants apologist. Top right corner, another Giants apologist, Mr. Brett Lawson is in the building. But the difference is it's different Giants. We'll let you guys discuss that later. Student of the game, and of course, just a living legend in Las Vegas. I think you're on your way there, buddy. You're on your way. Bottom left-hand corner, definitely toying in the fact that he has coffee and I don't. Mr. Paul Vato, comedian extraordinaire. Sometimes we ask why he's here. Sometimes we don't ask why he's here. It's just one of those things. And then at the bottom right-hand corner, Mr. Erik Amaya, back off of a trip that he took. We're going to dig into that for a minute if we can. Look, he was off for a week. That's basically what it was. Erik never asked for time off, but Erik did, and so we obliged it. So no recording.
Was it Erik's
week.
Time off or my time off that caused us not to?
I want to use this. What are you doing? You're ruining the bit. The whole thing was he was supposed to not. And he's like, "Where did I go? What did I do?" You ruined it. But imagine that.
I'm so confused sometimes Brendan whether it's a bit or whether you're just confused about like what's actually happening in the world. Because we lost Brett.
It broke Brett. Wow, Brett couldn't handle the destruction of the bit.
I just
had
you gotta let me
know. You gotta have a hand signal or something. That's all right.
That's why he was last. I also love the fact that we completely just dumped Brett right now. Which
imagine that Brendan thinks somebody else's brain doesn't work. That's crazy.
I know, crazy thoughts by that guy. Someone hit a body real quick. Good job. That was well done. Well done by you. I do love by the way to be on branding with your drink cup, dude. Well done. I mentioned the Giants, and that's what he did. I love it. Guys, real quick, there's been a lot going on last couple of weeks. We've seen a lot of things from all sides of the world. I mean, everything from everything in the true theater that has become the World Cup soccer, because that is actually a very, very interesting sports conversation right now that I don't know that we saw it it's because the superstars are all playing like superstars. That's a whole thing. And then we're seeing in all of the different worlds, there's a whole bunch of like changing of actions, moments that are happening, things that are changing. We're seeing one of the things that I thought was really cool is I saw some stuff about Marvel this last week, and the fact that Marvel is taking a approach of digging in a little bit more to the creator comic side to bring it cinematically. So they're actually spending more time digging into it than they had been, and trying to get I guess a little bit more true storylines going and stuff. But there's been a ton of stuff going on, but nothing bigger to Brendan Allen than Sami Zayn taking the championship title away from Cody Rhodes, which, brought the question up. Look, we've done these things, guys, where we've talked about like who's the best of this, who whatever it was when it came to the world of wrestling, especially with, Brett and Brendan. And it just kind of brings up that point to start thinking like, look, Cody Rhodes, he's a superstar. CM Punk came back. Is he bigger or is Cody bigger? And then that gets us into the topic of thinking about generationally, who were the bigger personalities and people in the time period. So I'll kind of leave it to you guys, like, because I felt like Cody losing this title actually kind of puts up like a mark on him because it was Sami Zayn. And I'm not a big fan of it. And I know it'll be a quick thing. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what it'll be. It might even be one of those things that it creates a storyline with someone else of coming in and taking the title from Sami Zayn and then causing this whole redemption story, AKA every storyline John Cena was ever in. redemption to get the title back type thing. I don't know if that's where they're going or what it is, but I'll turn it to you guys. We'll start, Brandon. We'll start with you. Cody Rhodes loses the title. Sami Zayn now the title holder.
Sure. No. So there's a few things going on here. So Sami Zayn initially wasn't going to Riyadh when they were doing the Saudi Arabian thing because of his heritage. And now apparently that's been resolved. So he's way over in Saudi. It makes perfect business sense that they dropped the belt to Sami Zayn. He's also done a recent heel turn in the United States. And, so the thing is that you've got this monster holding one of the belt, and then you've got Sami Zayn, who is a great guy to play coward heel. He's done it before. He's very good at doing the coward heel trope. And coward heel champions are some of the best champions ever. You saw Ric Flair do it for years, where he's poking people in the eyes and stuff like that, doing the quick schoolboy pins and running out of the ring. So I think you're going to see a little bit of that. It also, the thing is, you got guys like Roddy Piper, who never, ever, ever won a major championship, but he's one of the biggest draws in professional wrestling history. Cody Rhodes at this point doesn't need a belt. And, he did that in AEW for a while too, where he was just kind of doing his thing as a main eventer without a belt. So I think that they may allow Sami Zayn to hold the belt through SummerSlam up until WrestleMania. It's going to set up some storylines, things like that. But also Cody Rhodes, when he eventually gets the belt back, because he's going to, is going to be a multi-time champion. So they can be like 5-time, 6-time, whatever it is. So it builds up his stats actually by dropping it, because people look at the numbers and they see 27-time world champion. They go, wow, Ric Flair's the greatest. And it's like, well, to get it 27 times means he had to lose it 26 times.
Correct.
So
there's also the dynamic of the fact that some guys are a lot more interesting and entertaining to watch when they chase a title rather than when they have the title. That's also like a kind of an age-old conversation. And some guys, that's just the case. A lot of people loved Cena when he was chasing the title. The second he was the champion and the gold was placed around his waist, they automatically turned. And the second they would be taken off of him, and whether it be Edge or Orton or whoever of his, whatever one of his, just vast array of rogues gallery at this point, if you will, who it was, he'd get it back. And like Brennan said, to see someone win the title how many times, you got to lose the title how many times, or ultimately drop the title. And that's what people like to see. When you drop the title, how is your comeback going to be? And ultimately, I think we're going to get that with Cody. I think in a way, everything with Cody, I'm not going to say his career peaked with WrestleMania 40, but I think everything that we saw in that phase of Cody Rhodes peaked during that event, in that epic match. And to think that we're still going to get that kind of Cody, who's the ultimate chaser of the dream, is stupid, because, or at least not maybe stupid, but just like off base, because we've seen that story culminate. It's now time to move to the next phase of his career, and we are seeing that.
Well, when you talk about the next phase of people's careers and you start doing that stuff, you think about some of the guys that are on their way out, on their way in. Right. Mm-hmm. I think that's you've got to look at those things, those storylines. Obviously Danhausen came in and really kind of changed what their game plan was. I don't think they had every intention to get in as deep as his storylines become. And now they're building him a faction and the whole nine. I think on the other side of things is to look back in time and just kind of see if this storyline is going to reinvent itself. Right. So think back to some of the best coming and going, passings of the torch, because there wasn't a real passing of the torch from Cena. There really wasn't. Well, that was not a passing of the torch. It was kind of like, I've been here too long. It's time to go.
Well, you know what happened there? There were too many people in creative that had conflicting ideas about what was supposed to happen. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is one of the executives at TKO, and he was like, I want to be involved in this, but then he was like, I was too busy, and so they kind of dropped his end of it. And then like Cena was like, you know what, I don't like the heat I'm getting. I really want to go out, on my shield as a hero. And so everything kept changing. Like they had an idea, and then they kept changing the idea, and so it got so muddled that nobody cared at the end. And they were just like, okay, so that's all done with. Let's forget about it, and let's have Cena have his last 2 or 3 matches or whatever.
Well, the reason that happened was because Cena did not have what you would call a hard retirement in a way. He kind of had this soft retirement because he was essentially semi-retired for years. He was what you call a part-timer. Because of that, it's very hard to pass the torch when you're not on television every week, right?
Could have passed it to Brock.
Right, exactly. Austin went, and this is kind of like what we were having a conversation off air before we started the show about like how, listen, Austin and The Rock are probably the most iconic professional wrestling rivalry of the last, 25, 30 years, some would say of all time, but they only align. Steve, you'll get to your point. Hold on. But Wilton, I know you're itching. But ultimately, Brennan brought up a good point. They only were around so long because Austin's career started so much sooner than Dwayne's did. But at the same time, when you look at Dwayne's trajectory after Austin, or even during Austin, even though there were a lot of different people, Brennan mentioned them, Foley, Triple H, Brock, he didn't have the same type of catalog as he did with Austin, but that was because McMahon and the brass this went full-blown acceleration, hyper-focus mode to maximize Austin Rock while they had it. So in 3 years, they were facing each other nonstop, or 4 years, including 3 WrestleMania main events. That's why it was so monumental for that period of time. However, The Rock still had a few good years in him after Austin's body started breaking down before the movies took The Rock away permanently. So the question is kind of not just who was the transition and the passing of the torch from Cena onward. You really didn't have one between The Rock and Cena, because even Lesnar, who is what McMahon wanted to do, who is the guy McMahon wanted to have that role, he went to go play football, then went to the UFC. Randy Orton was the original guy who they thought would be the man to lead, the guy to lead the company, but then he got popped. So then they punished him, they put it with Cena, and next thing you know, it's history. Steve, go ahead. Sorry, I'm rambling.
Well, so I have a hard time thinking that it's Rock Cena when
I never said Rock Cena. Rock Austin.
Rock Austin.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
But
gotcha.
What I'm having a hard time with is how long Hogan had a stranglehold on, the WWF at the time. Yeah. And then I could name 2 different times where those matchups could almost be bigger than what was being offered. The only thing
is it Hogan Andre? Because that's a fair rebuttal.
Well, no, okay,
that's
so
one of them.
So Hogan Andre is one.
Hogan
right?
Piper too. Like
Hogan Piper obviously kicked off WrestleMania 1, right? Because that was the Mr. T, Paul Orndorff, right? But more, I'm leaning and going. But you also had those storylines for him
Iron
where
Sheik.
It was, he had the more heel type ones that rolled for a long time. But even that, nothing matched up bigger than when you had Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan.
1990 WrestleMania.
That was
6.
pure hype too. That match
that-
is garbage. It does not hold up. You go back and you watch it. It is painful to watch, but
It's rough.
they had the crowd hyped. They had everybody at home hyped.
Yeah.
I want to go a different direction though, because I think that more important than the best rivalries and the best passing of the torches are the underrated ones that were gems. Because you know what does hold up is Rock versus Book. They were both in the peak of their physical prowess. They were both golden on the microphone, and nobody remembers. The entire feud was just awesome because it was also during the invasion angle. So you had a world champion versus a world champion. They had similar move sets. They were both doing a version of the bookend, or what does The Rock call it?
The rock bottom. Yeah.
The rock bottom and the bookend, right? I mean, it was just so entertaining to watch. And it's like, because they were downplaying WCW so much, it's like a forgotten little chapter in The Rock's history.
That's a great point too. And here's another one. We could go even deeper. How about Flair Steamboat, Flair Dusty? You could really go on and on. I think
although if Flair was ever,
Steamboat
I mean, I would give an argument that as big as Flair was, he was big because he came in and took moments away from people, right? Not big because he was the feature. Because him by himself leading it, I don't think was the guy. Like during that time, Piper was such a bigger deal, and Macho Man Randy Savage would absolutely, as far as the presence, would dominate it in any one time. In fact, one of the matches that I think is probably one of the most well forgotten matches that really should be talked about was Road to Slamboree in WCW. Was a match that basically was Macho Man Randy Savage versus Rowdy Piper. And a few times that those two actually got to match up heads up, right? One-on-one. But it was in a smaller promotion, so it wasn't as big of a deal, right?
And that's why Brennan, because I mean, we could even acknowledge the Flair was also Flair in a way was where Hogan picked up. because we know Andre was the first one to truly take it national. If anything, he took it
Right.
global. He was a true global, international type of
Oh,
attraction.
he was massive in Japan.
Massive. Everywhere.
Massive.
Literally, like he could go, Germany.
Puerto Rico.
Germany.
Mexico.
That
guy he could punch his ticket anywhere.
Well,
and
it
the only
sounds like
reason
Paul
why he
Vato.
stayed-
Honestly, whenever Paul Vato goes anywhere, it's the same thing. He gets the same type of retention. Paul, you had a question about something earlier, right?
No. I just wanted to tell you guys that Andre the Giant was my favorite wrestler.
In many ways.
Well, and it's funny though, Paul. Let me ask you though:
everybody's.
did you ever see him before he was wearing the black singlet? Did you ever see him just in trunks?
Yes,
because he was a completely different wrestler. When he was a young man, he was flying off the top rope at 6'10".
Yes,
and that is incredible. And he had to completely reinvent his moveset when he got older because he had gigantism, and so his back and his hip or whatever. And so he started wearing the big singlet because he had this massive back brace on that they had to basically like strap him into so that he wouldn't fall apart in the ring. And he was holding onto the ropes and stuff, which was cool because he was still huge. But when you saw that dude in his prime flying off the ropes and running the ropes and doing all kinds of crazy suplexes and stuff, it's a completely different show.
Eighth wonder of the world. And really quick before we go to break, because I was going to say, in a way, he was the first global attraction. Hogan was the first true national promotion guy because that essentially represented the end of the territory days. Flair, essentially, you could say Bruno in a way in the Northeast, but what Flair and Dusty did kind of represented the height of the territory days. And because of that, a lot of people don't really can't grasp and can't really make sense of how big Flair truly was in a certain part of the country at a time because they weren't in that country during that period of time.
And nobody that was born after 1985 is going to know what regional wrestling even is.
100%. Yeah. And yet the people who see Flair in 92 and they think, like Steve was saying, this is the guy, he's the champion, and he's not even the biggest guy out there right now. And that's because WWE Flair or, WWF Flair in the early 90s never really worked. And it was just one of those things where, in a way, he never really hit it big with that promotion. He was more so just a legacy character because of what he did before in the promotion.
I honestly look at this Danhausen bit now that I'm thinking about this as a little bit more of taking the guideline of the time that Flair was, where he would come and he would get involved in something and he would have some little, storyline and he would interrupt other people's stuff and he would have people from all over the promotion, doing different promos with him because he was such a good promo guy that like he would bring out the best in people, right? That's a factual thing. I would argue he's a top 3, guy on the mic all time. And we're
going to do this in the wrap up. Our top 3 promo guys of all time.
Love
We're going
that.
to do in the wrap up though, because we have to go to the second segment.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. So
let's do 4. Let's do a Mount Rushmore. Let's do 4.
Okay, Mount Rushmore of promos after in segment 4.
Yeah, so we're coming up on break. We're gonna go and we're gonna come back, talk about the comic keys for the week. Something interesting here in the world of DC because they're bringing one of their absolute biggest female members into their biggest property. But we'll do that right here coming up on the Collector's Desk.
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comic-Con.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comic-Con.com.
All right. Welcome back. I have a confession to make. When I was writing the ROS this week, I just got back from vacation. I did a massive hike. I was in a lot of pain. And so I pulled up an old segment. I was like, let's talk about the comics keys, not just for this coming week, but for the next 2 weeks, actually. So we got some comics to talk about. There's some stuff happening, like Steve said, in the Absolute Batman issue that's coming out this week on the 8th. Absolute Batman number 22 is going to have the introduction of Absolute Harley Quinn and the origin of Assembly of Robins. I can only assume that's going to be like their version of the Court of Owls, because they're using a bird name and it's like a group of them or whatever. But it says the origin of Harley Quinn as the Robin's nest in Gotham's backyard. It sounds a lot like the Court of Owls. Batman faces ultimate defeat. Harley Quinn's origin is revealed. How does Harley connect with Arc M? And how did the Robins fledge from hatchlings to birds? Oh, Jesus, they're so heavy with the bird puns right now. The call of more than one predator will be answered.
Really laid an egg with that one.
So this is the main cover. This is cover A. It's an okay cover, but the one that I really liked is there's a Collector's Emporium, a vendor commission that's done by Ryan Benjamin. It's a foil virgin. That's the next one you've got there, Eric. And I think this is the much better cover, and this one's going to come with foil. So you can order this direct from Collector's Emporium, but this is such a dynamic, it's very classic for Batman, but it's also very different. You see the cape is split, and he's got the different build. He's got the different weaponry going on and stuff like that. But as far as absolute Batman goes, this is as classic Batman you can get with this character. And so I feel like it kind of brings the two worlds together. And Paul is completely silent.
No, I love that. I love that second cover. I mean, it's for me, it's not as like, oh yeah, this is clearly Batman. At first, it's just like, wait, who is this? What is this? Mm-hmm. When did this originate? Like this style of Batman?
So the Absolute Universe, remember, they're reimagining all of the classic characters, their origin stories and things like that. So this Batman is not a rich, billionaire's son. This Batman was a garbage man. And so he's bigger, he's bulkier, he relies more on his strength because he doesn't have all the fancy gadgets. You see, he's using like a sledgehammer there.
Yeah.
So each of the characters kind of has a flavor of the original, but it's in a new, like, what if Batman was poor? What if he was a garbage man? What if he was collecting shit from the garbage to make into his, batarangs and stuff like that? So this is a different kind of Batman. What if he existed in this other timeline versus the one that he was born into?
And I'm sorry, and is this through the whole Absolute universe? I mean, is there also an Absolute Spider-Man, an Absolute Superman, and is it the same thing where it's
Spider-Man is Marvel, so there's lots of what if stories with Spider-Man in the Marvel universe. I'm pretty sure he's not an Absolute yet. I don't think that's going to happen since DC and Marvel.
Spider-Man will return in Avengers Doomsday.
Absolutely not.
But there is Absolute Wonder Woman, and we're going to talk about Absolute Green Arrow because my buddy Pornsack Pishashot is working on that one. We got to talk to him over at Comic-Con and do an interview about what he's doing over there, and it's a lot of fun. So he's coming up on the 15th with Absolute Green Arrow number 3. We'll get to that. The next one we have coming up is Wolverine number 23. This one's got a first appearance in it of Moore the Monster. It says, Power Grab. What's worse than Logan fighting with shattered claws and diminished mutant powers? His enemies with said powers. And Taskmaster is bringing the pain to Wolverine right when it hurts the most. So Taskmaster is the one that can steal other people's abilities, right?
Fighting styles, not abilities.
Okay, because it sounds like he's got Wolverine's healing stuff and things going on in this one. Yeah. So I wonder if that's a departure from the classic Taskmaster or if it's new.
Right, going by what Scott or Austin, I think it was Austin mentioned in one of his previously on X-Men columns over at Comic-Con, is that Wolverine has been diminished, but his powers have been transferred to others. So that might be part of this. That while Taskmaster is usually just he can immediately learn anyone's fighting technique, he now has added mutant what's-its going on. So now he has healing factor.
That's an amazing power, though. Like, how do you combat that? That's a great
right?
super villain kind of. I'm surprised that Taskmaster is not more of a character that's talked about, because that seems like a pretty dominant thing that would be a hard thing to overcome.
I mean, part of it is they screwed up the introduction in the MCU because the character appeared in Black Widow. People got mad because there was a woman under the costume, and even though they hired the right person, like, you hire Olga Kurylenko to kick people's asses. Like, that's why you get her,
No, you Heidi Moneymaker to kick people's asses, and then you put somebody else's face on it when they take the mask off.
Exactly. But Olga Kurylenko is one of those people who has a very pretty face, but you buy that she can kick somebody's ass. So,
gotcha.
It's that sort of thing. It's well cast, but we're already at that point of, why the hell are they gender bending? Blah, blah, blah. And I think it ruined Taskmaster's chances.
Wait, how do you gender bend a skull?
Because I guess in the comics he's a guy. Like, I've never really read a Taskmaster. Or
like, if they revealed that Skeletor was a woman this whole time, I would not be shocked. I wouldn't care. Like, it's a skull, right?
Yeah. Also, isn't that kind of it's like the Samus Aran reveal? It's like you spend however many hours playing Metroid and you discover you've played a woman this whole time. That would be kind of cool to discover this person who can kick Captain America's ass because their ability is to take the fighting style. Like,
sure,
that's cool.
Yeah. Your thoughts on this cover, Paul?
I love it. Well, I've always been such a big fan of Wolverine, and then this is just something that I've not seen. So I just got to go pick up all these all these books. Or can you send me the?
You know, if you go to your local comic shop, one of the ways that local comic shops stay in business is with subscriptions. So you go into your local comic shop and you're like, hey, I want to get started with this new book. They're starting a new storyline. I would like to get in on Wolverine number 23. So they sell you Wolverine number 23. And then when number 24 comes in, they hold it behind the counter for you. That way they know how many to order and you always get a copy. So go into your local shop, tell them that you want a subscription to Wolverine. And then when it starts dropping off or your interest goes to other comics, whatever, you go in and you start working on your subscription list. You go, okay, I'll drop Wolverine. I'm going to add Absolute Wonder Woman, whatever it is. And that way your comics are always there because they order one specially just for you. Your comics are always there and they always know that they're going to make that $5 per week on you for your title or whatever. So that's the way to do it is subscriptions. And I know people get kind of scared of the subscription thing. If you're a couple weeks late coming in, they don't care. If you're 6 months late, that's a problem because they paid for all those books and you have not, and they're just sitting there. But if you're going to go in like once a month or something like that, I would get the subscription just so that the comics are there and you're supporting your local shop, but they're also making sure that you've got the books that you want, first editions and all that. So
can I just call Marvel and go, hey, I'm on this very hit podcast?
You can just don't mention the outlet, Comic-Con, or Eric or me at all. Because you'll get us blacklisted probably.
Yeah.
All right, next one up. So there's this new publishing company out there called Ignition Press, and they're doing some exciting stuff. If you look at who is on the team, they've got Eric Gitter, who does film and TV production. Philip, is it Philip or Philippe Sablik? I don't ever know. Philippe Sablik.
Yeah.
Used to be the Boom Studios president of publishing and marketing. Jamie Rich was at DC, Dark Horse, Oni, and Jeremy Hahn is an amazing artist and writer. And one of their new titles that's coming out is called Dispatch Number 1. And this one says, MacGyver meets Die Hard in this life or death unboxing. Estranged from his family and living under a government-issued alias, ex-Black Ops agent Morgan Power endures a life in suburban exile as a delivery driver for a major global courier company. It's a 180 from his action-packed classified work abroad until a routine shift puts him in the crosshairs of a domestic terrorist takedown. The art on this looks amazing. The creative team looks amazing. B. Clay Moore is on this. This is just really interesting to me. And I know that the people that are putting out these books, they've got solicits through 2027. So they've got plans for the next couple of years. They're starting out with great creative teams. They've got these great ideas. I think Ignition Press is going to be a thing. They're going to be one of those, because they're not going the boutique route where they're charging $17 per comic. They're just trying to make good comics. And this one has a fascinating story. And this cover, initially, you see the delivery driver, right? Now look behind him. It's a very interesting cover. It's a very interesting concept. I'm interested in reading the first, at least, arc of this to see where it's going to go.
Yeah. I like he's still,
oh, go ahead.
no, I would say, he gets the job done. What do you have to go through just to deliver that blood splattered package? Yeah. What's the story? And it's just like, oh, this is my life. I don't know. Yeah. That looks very interesting. I love it.
Yeah, I visited Ignition's little offsite, or little. I mean, it was actually a pretty large space, but I visited their offsite at San Diego Comic-Con last year, and every cover looked amazing. Every premise sounded awesome. So it's great to see Ignition actually ignite. And
I see what you did there.
Right, exactly. There are some writers who are afraid of using puns, and they're all cowards. So. To steal from Garth Marenghi, but this looks cool. Like this,
it does.
This is a great cover. So
nice. The next one up is Witness Point number 1, and this one is a Dark Horse book. I love Dark Horse. I like how they get into the weird indie stuff. They do a little bit of horror, but look at the writer in the upper left corner there, Mr. Nathan Fillion. We all know is a co-writer on this one. It's an interesting concept. I know that Dark Horse sometimes, they'll go out on a limb if there's a solid premise. So because it's Dark Horse, I'm willing to bet that this is one of the better collaborations they have with, a mainstream actor or whatever. But it says, welcome to Baraboo, small Midwestern town. That sounds so Minnesota. It's Wisconsin. Nestled in the mountains of Wisconsin. Home of the Ringling Brothers Circus headquarters and friendly neighbors that all know and trust each other, until it's revealed that the town has been the dumping ground for every murderer, con man, and crook in the witness protecting. Everybody in town is in the witness protection program. That is awesome. Witness Point, as Baraboo was nicknamed by the previous marshal, has now become a hotbed of conspiracy as every resident of this formerly sleepy town eyes their neighbor with new suspicion, wondering who among them could secretly be the worst kind of criminal. That sounds amazing. Like everybody is a criminal, and so they have to balance between their secret identities, their real identities, and like what's going on in the town and who else might be there that's got beef with them or whatever. That I think this is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, also a nice collection of talent here too. Nathan Fillion, Heath Curzon, and Sue Lee. Like that's formidable.
What do you think
it.
there,
I
Paul?
love the whole concept because there's always something about the witness protection program. Except, well, wasn't Ringling? Weren't they down in Florida, or they just?
It's comics, man. Don't pull too hard at that thread.
Well,
where is the Ringling Brothers headquarters?
I can believe that Superman flies, but yeah, I mean, this has to be, come on, it has to be believable.
You know what's interesting is I was talking to my kids the other day. Oh, they are in Florida. They're in Palmetto. I was talking to them because they were like, hey, the circus is coming down. I was like, yeah, but not really, because the circuses don't exist anymore. And like, what do you mean? I was like, well, Ringling Brothers used to be, it's the same thing as like school pictures. They used to take a picture because a photographer would come to town once a year. They take a picture of every kid in town. You would buy the picture because nobody had a camera, right? What do we even need yearbooks anymore? Because we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got all this stuff. Everybody keeps in contact constantly with everybody else. You don't need a yearbook. So the thing is they were bringing the zoo to you. They were bringing the amusement park to you. And it's like, now I can drive, 2 hours in any direction. I'm going to be in an amusement park. I'm going to be at a zoo, right? So Ringling Brothers, when the whole thing happened with the animal crackers and stuff like that, they really just kind of went out of business because, it's an outdated mode of entertainment that like just doesn't work anymore. Like why, when the LA Zoo is 2 hours that way, am I going to pay LA Zoo prices to go to some idiot who's got he's got a cat and half a can of tuna, and they're doing anyway. Cool. All right, next one up. Speaking of Mr. Pornsack Piece of Show, coming out on the 15th is Absolute Green Arrow #3. We talked to Pornsack about Absolute Green Arrow, and it was a really good interview. You should head over to the Comic-Con YouTube channel and check that out. But this one introduces Roy Harper to the Absolute Universe. It says, Dinah on the trail of the Green Arrow Killer. After the horrifying events of the last issue, Dinah must capture the Green Arrow Killer as she finally finds Oliver Queen's protege, Roy Harper. But as the killer's attacks intensify and Dinah discovers the unsettling effect they're having on Star City, Harper's trail takes her on a journey darker and more twisted than she ever imagined. So Dinah in this one, that's Wonder Woman, yeah?
No, Dinah's Black Canary.
Why do they have so many Dinahs? Oh, Diana.
Diana and then Dinah. Yeah.
Well, why did they should not do that? Because I get dyslexic and anyway. So you were asking, did they do this with all the DC characters and like the big ones? So they did Green Arrow, they're doing Superman, they're doing Batman, they're doing a few of the like second tier characters and stuff like that. But Pornsack has a great mind for horror, and it's so much fun to read anything that he's written. He did Infidel. He was one of my very first professional interviews, and it was at New York Comic-Con. And it was just so much fun talking to him about horror and like peeling back layers and finding like the root of the horror, whatever. And he's really found a place with Green Arrow that is absolutely terrifying, and I love it. There's so much body horror and just like fun stuff happening with this series, and it's early enough, Paul. You're in issue #3. If you go to your local shop and you tell them you want to start with 3, they can get you #2 and #1, and you can go forward from here. But Pornsack's doing some really, really fun stuff with this title.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
So many years ago, I declared Roy Harper the most useless man in the DC universe. So I wonder if Absolute Roy Harper will be the most useless man in the Absolute universe.
Or because it's the Absolute universe, maybe he's the most important man in the Absolute universe.
Exactly, right? Exactly. What if Roy Harper wasn't useless? That'd be odd. And here's the thing. I love Roy Harper. Like, I love his character, but God, he's useless.
So is he like the gold ball of the DC universe?
I mean, kind of. I mean, he's the Green Arrow also ran. So, or actually, that's unfair. He's Green Arrow's sidekick. Like,
so it's like Robin.
I mean, but Robin is Robin. Robin.
But to make Robin interesting, you've got to change out the character and kill him and have him have all kinds of.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the biggest thing that ever happened to Roy Harper is he got addicted to heroin. Like that's.
Well, see, that makes him interesting. That's a good backstory.
That was also like 50 years ago that it happened. So, and
so Paul was recently addicted to heroin. Paul, how did you kick that habit?
With cocaine.
No, I mentioned a character a few minutes ago, and I wonder if you knew who the most useless X-Man in history was, and that is a character named Goldball. Paul, the way that he would subdue his enemies is to throw balls of solid gold at them. At which point, I don't need to rob the bank. I can just pick up the gold balls and go,
exactly,
right? Like,
exactly.
That's right. That's right. Gold
so
ball.
just pick a fight with Gold Ball, pick up your winnings, and leave.
All that said, every absolute Green Arrow cover is amazing, and this one is no different. This is awesome.
Well, and it's funny because I go through these covers and sometimes I don't see the subtext and things or whatever, but this is a dollar bill with blood on it, and you know that old adage of like every dollar has blood on it,
Right.
right? But it's a really cool thing because that's obviously supposed to be, you know, a U.S. currency or whatever, and it's got who is that on it though? Is that Green Arrow?
That is absolute Green Arrow, isn't it? With the mask and the red eyes and stuff.
That's dope, dude.
Yeah.
I want it now. Cool. All right, the last one for this week. Mark London is expanding the Underworld universe with Mr. Nemo #1. And the thing that I think is really great about this Underworld stuff is like it all ties together in a big universe. Like there's a through line that connects all these titles together, but you can pick this one up and just start. And then if you like it, you can go back and get some of the other titles in the same line. But it's kind of like you know, the Hellboy universe where there's like all these different things happening, but they still kind of exist in the same universe. So it says a new chapter of the Underworld universe begins here. A brilliant analyst uncovers a global conspiracy and is immediately marked for disappearance, only to be rescued by the mysterious Nemo, a man waging a secret war from beneath the ocean. As they dive to a hidden world of covert power and impossible technology, one question remains: can they save the world before it even knows it's in danger? And it's interesting because this is the story of Captain Nemo. It's just updated for a new audience because everything that I just read fits right into the classic story of Captain Nemo.
Yeah.
He's probably got like his submarine is called the Nautilus, I'll bet you.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if the analyst is going to be named Aronnax. You know, if they're just going to grab every name they can from the book, because you can. I mean, the book is free to use, you know.
Well, I think that you know, the story of Captain Nemo is one of the first like steampunk things that I got into because the impossible tech or whatever, and you can see that he's wearing like these steampunk goggles, and they've got the little gear thing in the logo there that's very, you know, gold with gears is a very steampunk like imagery. So you know, I think that Captain Nemo was before its time with that whole you know, trend of steampunk, but I like that they're bringing elements into it, and I'm curious to see how they're going to update it, because if they go too far, people won't accept it, and if they don't go far enough, people are going to be like, well, why don't I just read the book?
Right.
Yeah. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of steampunk as well. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, this kind of speaks to me. I thought it maybe was just based on you know, Finding Nemo, but obviously it's
Finding Nemo.
What?
It's my lucky fin.
No, I thought it was maybe based on something, but it'll be interesting to see, you know, if all those names are mentioned, and like you said, if it's public domain, why not? Why can't you, you know,
Right.
remake the story, and maybe you'll find a whole new generation that gets into it.
You know, and that's fine as long as they're like doing homage to the original, but it does irk me when they take the original and they make it something that's completely not. Like the whole thing with like Steamboat Willie the horror and Winnie the Pooh the horror and stuff like that. It's like, you know, it's like there's a whole like history and that you have to be respectful of, because those characters belong to somebody. They belong to these children that have grown into adults and things like that. So I hope that it is respectful of the original property, but I also kind of want to see an update of it. So I think this one's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Smiles and nods. All right. Well,
so get ready for the Superman horror in 10 years, because when Superman goes public domain, you know it's immediately a horror movie.
oh, it's got to be.
Right.
It's got to be. You know, I saw a thing the other day. What do you think is the worst superpower to have?
Arm fall off boy.
No. Like the existing superpowers. So like super speed, heat vision,
Right.
X-ray
No, I
vision,
mean,
that kind of
Arm
stuff.
fall off boy is a real character.
I know, but like a
he-
mainstream
he was superhero several times.
accepted power.
I mean, it has to be your arm falling off, because it's not like the arm can levitate on its own. It just falls off.
So I don't know where I saw this. It might have been on The Boys. I don't know. But somebody was talking about super speed being the worst possible power. And the reason being is they're like, Flash, we need you to defuse this bomb, right? So Flash runs off to the library, he gets all the books on diffusing bombs or whatever, and then he comes back and defuses the bomb. It happened for you in half a second. But for Flash, it took him 2 years to go and learn everything about homemade bombs, right? He actually did the work. And you're seeing it happen in half a second. So you're like, oh, that was super easy. And it's like, no, bro, that took me forever because everything just slows down for him. And he's sitting there doing all this studying to make it happen.
Okay, so worst power for the person who actually possesses it.
Yes.
Okay. Telepathy. Telepathy is the worst.
Oh, that would be rough.
Yeah.
That would be rough. I don't want to know other people's opinions of me. It's none of my goddamn business.
Yeah.
I want to exist.
You would think, oh, this is super advantageous, but as soon as you actually are able to hear, I don't know, Paul's thoughts.
Oh my God, can you imagine? It's got to be a mess in there.
Yeah.
The walls are all sticky and shit. Yeah.
I almost did this, but yeah, I guess you already.
Paul, what do you think? What's the worst superpower you could wake up with tomorrow morning?
Well, I mean, I can tell you what I've always, when people ask me that, like, what superpower would you have? I don't want to take it too far in a different direction, but for me, and I've never heard anyone else say this, and that would be my superpower would be to make anyone else at my bidding shit themselves. Because you're gonna fight me, Superman? Oh, well, guess what? You just crapped your pants. You know.
Wait, hang on. When people talk about time travel, they're like, I want to go 100 years in the past or whatever. I would be useless 100 years ago. They'd be like, so you're from the future, whatever. I would only need to go back in time one time, and I would only need to go back in time 2 hours. You got $1 billion Powerball coming up. I get the numbers. I go back to right before the draw closes. I submit one ticket. I'm a billionaire. I don't need anything else for the rest of my life. I need to go back in time once for 2 hours.
So go ahead and let Hitler live. Got it. Okay. Yep. Got it.
Nice. All right. So that is our comics keys for the month of July. Coming up after the break, there's a new game coming out. It's a TCG from Disney and Ravensberger. It's called Disney Lorcana Attack of the Vine. And we're going to have Steve, Brett, and Eric talk to you all about that. We'll see you on the other side.
Peppermint Patty's the worst.
Comicon.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comicon.com.
Well, welcome back to the Collector's Desk. I'm here with Brett, and I'm here with Eric. And guys, it's funny. When we start talking trading cards, especially when you get into the TCG side of things, the immediate discussion is Pokemon. I think everyone talks about Pokemon nonstop. One Piece has really jumped up and taken a spot in the discussion with its releases and what it is. In fact, it has a really hot release right now that's going on where they essentially created these God packs that could be found in a lesser product, and they're selling that lesser product. It's their deck boxes.
Right.
But, there's a player that I was on a couple of years ago. I was pretty steadfast on it, telling people like, look, this one's going to scale. I promise it's going to happen. It didn't kind of come to at the time it was supposed to. But that's the world of Disney and Lorcana. The Lorcana concept, I think when it first started, people were looking at it as like Disney and Ravensberger had a cash grab going on, trying to just grab some spot in the TCG space to create something. The game has become playable. It has good function to it, and it's definitely creating the interest. And they've done a nice thing with creating the chase cards for the specific sets. And then they made a mistake that actually probably was the best thing that ever could happen to them. And that is they had a set that released that was called Fabled. And Fabled, the distribution was so poor on it because they had a problem with production on the cards that they didn't print as much as they had been. And that set scaled, and then you started seeing other parts of Lorcana scale with it. And once you start to see that happen, that the franchise is starting to become a viable concept. And look, we're talking about Disney, and I'm sitting here going viable, but reality is, and Eric, and before we get into the deeper discussion on this is really, when the Lorcana cards come out, You're a Disney guy. You kind of understand this stuff a little bit. What do you think in particular really kind of drives this type of set from the Disney fan side, right? Like this type of card set, is it an interest to you? Is it not something, you know, have you thought about it? Like
not really. Like I remember being at D23, the Disney Expo, the year that Lorcana came out, and they were like giving away free cards and free packs. And it was just like, I don't know if I need another SKU of this. I already have action figures.
Right.
You know, which is kind of my whole card game thing anyway. I haven't bought anything since one of the Doctor Who Magic the Gathering decks because, you know, I'm a Doctor Who fan. That's going to pull me a lot more than the Disney stuff, just because, you know, I love my Marvel, I love the theme parks, but I'm not a Disney guy in the way of, oh, it has Donald Duck in it, I need to be there. You know,
Right.
I've never played Kingdom Hearts. I've never, you know, it's that sort of thing. So, but I imagine for the Disney like fanatic, the everything Disney adult,
Right.
you know, the magic here is, oh, hey, it's a card game with all my favorite characters.
And that's what's funny about Disney, because since they own so many properties, and their properties are the biggest nerd brands out there, being Marvel and Star Wars, which essentially everyone is a fan of just about, it's hard to say you're not a Disney fan, but that is a different demographic than the Disney adult who just consumes everything all the way back from, you know, the 1930s and so on. You know, I mean, they're talking like, you know, they have Oswald the Rabbit, the Lucky Rabbit type stuff, and that technically wasn't even licensed to Disney. So ultimately, to me, Steve, when, you know, I got this, when Brennan sent the rundown, the first thing I actually, interestingly enough, thought of was Marvel and Star Wars for this very reason. You mentioned in the opening of the segment how with Lorcana was a thing a few years ago. Eric just mentioned he was at the very stage presentation at D23 about it, right? And it kind of now is kind of manifesting itself out. This, to me, parallels what we are seeing in the card space with Marvel and Star Wars, right? Being in sports media, I try to follow every little nook and cranny and every little tributary out there. And one of the biggest growing fastest growing and biggest, you know, tributaries in the space right now are live streaming card breaks. And so many of those content creators now, who I don't even follow, but may just happen to pass by chance because of the algorithm online, so many of them now are focusing, just like they've always focused on, you know, sports and Pokemon, they are now focusing on Marvel cards. These things, and I've been wanting to ask you about this for a while, Steve, but just based off the news cycle, the show hadn't really suggested it. Now it does. You are seeing these Marvel cards pop up out of the blue online with this content, and there's a huge demand, and it's not like they're new. Does this kind of reflect that? And is this something in the hobby space where if the Disney brands attach, and if it's big enough, like something like Marvel, maybe not Lorcana, but Marvel, yes, it will eventually catch on?
You know, I think so. The problem you run into is that a lot of the card properties that were made for Disney, a lot of that stuff really came into the 90s. And during the 90s, it was so overly produced that it's just heavily available everywhere, right? You know, they took the Pokemon game plan with this, build a set, create expansions, you know, build the gaming side of it. And they've done a nice job. And what they're doing is, and your Marvel side, just to kind of point it out, is as in the world of comic books and Marvel, and Eric will tell you this, like Harley Quinn, good example, being introduced in Absolute Batman, right? Mm-hmm. Now you'll watch Harley Quinn cards in the Marvel space will slightly go up because it's created an interest, and there's another consumer who isn't always in the card space, but is in the Harley Quinn space.
And that's what honestly, because and I mentioned Marvel because Marvel and Star Wars kind of go hand in hand because they're so mainstream and they're so, you know, just overly digestible for so many people. But DC despite not being under the Disney banner, DC does fall into that as well. And Harley Quinn is a character who essentially had this major surge in popularity for a few various reasons. The cartoon, she kind of caught traction. Then she got her own comic. Then Margot Robbie played her. Then she got her own cartoon show. She kind of every few years, Lady Gaga, despite the negative reception of that movie, like every few years she pops back up, and now it's like in the trading card form. It's just a variety of media, really.
Right. Yeah, the thing is that with these games and the way these card sets get released, look, it's a variety of things. They've made the Disney cards. There's a few different companies out there. Topps has a release with Disney, Topps Chrome release that, the parallels in those can go for obscene amounts of money. Like those exist, the one of ones, and the one of one Mickey Mouse, Steamboat Willie,
Right.
going for $30,000 or something like that. And I'm just, don't quote me on that price, but I'm just throwing it out there as like an example. Those things are happening. Well, with Lorcana is that Lorcana has just started to become really relevant, because once they did that with their set Fabled, and they didn't have enough product for everyone, and you're seeing the booster boxes and that going for $700 a booster box when they came out at $140, right? And you're seeing these things where like there wasn't these big steep increases, and now you go back and you look, and we mentioned D23. So Erik, just to point out, I just quickly looked to see really quick, but had you picked up those original promos from D23, the very first one, and graded PSA 10s on June 26th, the Elsa PSA 10 sold for $49,995. The Stitch sold for $49.95. The Mickey sold for $49.95. The Cruella sold for $49.95. The Captain Hook sold for $49.95. You go down this, that's a complete set. One set, all complete, PSA 10. And you probably had the same buyer buy every single one of those to buy the complete set. That was a giveaway. That was an item that you could have went and got just for being at the show.
I will visit the Lorcana booth at D23 this year.
The second release that they did in 24 came as a box set, right? And they had as a box set, and you could buy it. I have had one of those box sets sitting in a closet here. I've done nothing with it whatsoever. I haven't looked at it at all. We started talking about this release that's coming up for Lorcana, which is what we're talking about. I wanted to look and see what this was going for. At one point, the highest point I saw it sell for was $280. It's got recent sales in the $760 and $800 mark. So that set has exponentially blown up, because that lack of market product, what it did is it created the scarcity, and it got the resellers into it. And when the resellers got into it, now the product is getting bought up even in bigger chunks at different levels, and then reintroduced to the market at a higher price. So we'll see what happens, but they, look, this is a 30th anniversary year for Pokemon. Pokemon's got all kinds of crazy releases and all this stuff going on constantly. It seems like every month they've got something new coming out, but Attack of the Vine is coming from Disney Lorcana. This is pretty cool. Look, this is going to include the Monsters Incorporated, and they're doing a really good job of where they're keeping a lot of the core Disney characters involved, but they're also just making sure that that we can like really introduce different areas of these different Lorcanas, because one of the ones that I know that has become kind of a big deal is the fact that you have Jack and Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, right? The franchise is so big by itself, and then when you pulled it into the card set, you created collectors, you created players, you created people that were just collecting Lorcana, and this. So this is kind of their base set of cards. This is what the base pretty much looks like. This would be like the normal base cards. Because of playability, the one thing I'll say in Lorcana is playability. I feel like the values on your base cards hold a little bit better value, because there are cards that are just very, very, player friendly, and then different versions. So they do cold foils, and the cold foil is essentially like a cosplay. I'm just joking. It's like the cold foil is like a hollow, right? I actually did that on purpose, and that's because Brett Lawson has sent 57 messages to our chat.
The funny thing is, I normally send nothing too, and I decided to get all these thoughts all of a sudden for this segment, and like whatever episode this is for the show.
Yeah,
but
so this stuff, I think, like these cards, there's going to be pieces in these cards, like the Malin Lee card that we see here. That card, I could see the foils of that selling for quite a bit, just because it's a unique card. The art style is a little different. It's, those things. And so when you think about this, the one thing that I love about this is the same thing I love about Pokemon, and why this is such a big deal is that in this space, in the Pokemon space, characters don't die. People don't die. They don't pass. They move on. They evolve. They become a different version, whatever it is. But because of that, your baseline characters are always formidable, and Mickey can be anything. Mickey can be a tailor. Mickey can be a wizard. Mickey can be,
That's the appeal of Kingdom Hearts, right?
Right.
They took that exact same model. We said we could just stick Mickey, Goofy, some Donald, some key characters here and there in our original, pantheon of greats that go all the way back to those old days, and we could just make them work and rewrite them over and over again.
And then, they make full arts just like in Pokemon, and those are the chase cards, and those are the ones that get very valuable. They're not cards that are really playable. They're cards that are built as a collectible. They're part of it. Generally, if you get like a case, which in the past has been 4 boxes of Lorcana, you would be guaranteed to get one of the case hits, which would be one of those, full art foil cards. Look, there's a ton of reasons why you should love Lorcana. You can collect just a different segment of it. You could do just villains. You could do just Toy Story, as we see here. You could do just whatever it is. Like, it's kind of endless. But what I do love is the fact that they're celebrating a lot of the Disney characters, like ones that you might not even normally think about, right?
Oh, definitely. I'm already picking that up here.
On this sheet, I just clocked like 3 characters from Atlantis.
100%. I was thinking the same thing, Eric.
Never see Atlantis being
that's the one
a Disney product.
That's the one movie that everyone wants in an era where no one wants all these live action reboots. That's the one that everyone wants the live action reboot of. So I was thinking the same thing, buddy. No doubt.
Well, and I just think that it's really interesting. And so, look, Lorcana, you've missed the boat on the big stuff early, right? Like that stuff is now, those first edition things, those are truly, they're that rare and that hard to find. But when you get into some of the other elements of it, it's still within that affordability range to grab like the second waves of stuff. You can still grab, the very first booster boxes, in market that are, fairly, they're fairly affordable, right? They just are. They used to be grossly expensive, and kind of give you an idea, like the first print case, we just saw some cases sell. One sold for $4,700, another one sold for $4,500 for the 4 boxes, right? So you're talking about $1,000 a booster box. To kind of put that into perspective, in Pokemon, you have booster boxes that are, from 2023 that are selling in the $5,000 to $7,000 range, right? So just gives you an idea. This is the first stuff that you can still get into at that. You're probably going to pay $1,200 to $1,500 for a booster box now. I remember selling them for $300, and having them. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I have a question. So for this sort of thing to be viable, does it need your casual player market, your high-end collectible market, and your competitive player market? Does it need all 3 of those to actually function?
So, it's funny. I sit in a space where I say no, but I see a tremendous value from the high-level player and the playing consumer, right? They're buying up the individual packs, the smaller lots of stuff. They're buying up things to rip where they can get deals at. And what it does is it keeps some of that lesser product still important, because they're still buying it to use it. They're still buying decks and deck boxes and breaking, pieces of the deck out and grabbing cards that they need to improve their deck or whatever it is. So it does make it to where the Disney stuff does sell. It was a period of time where Lorcana just didn't seem like it was selling very well, and people were kind of like, and I had a lot of haters on me saying, "Oh yeah, you're saying Lorcana is going to be a big deal," and I told them, I was like, "Give it some time. It's got to build.
Right.
Like you have to build this because the Disney collector is going to come in and create hype. It's going to happen initially, and it did, right? But then outside of that, what was going to sustain it was going to be creating a concept where people are diving into it and playing on a regular basis, the tournaments and all of that stuff. And then on the flip side is finding out how rare it is to actually hit these chase cards, right? When you think of, it's a case hit, and then as the price of a box goes up because the playability of a card or cold foil has more interest and is becoming more valuable. And then you look at characters too. Look, that first set, Elsa was, she's Charizard, right? Like that's who she is. And so when you start looking at that concept and everything, you're seeing a viable, product that's going to do really well. And then when you bring in the collector market too, because the collector market doesn't care if it's Pokemon, doesn't care if it's One Piece, doesn't care if it's Lorcana, doesn't care if it's sports, doesn't care any of that. It cares what's the scalability in the space. Is there stuff that's rare? And of that rare stuff, what can I do with it to exponentially value it, which is great.
Well,
right?
that's why it's kind of rinse, wash, repeat. It's not a matter of what it is. It's a question of if it pertains and applies to the formula. Yeah. Right. And you just laid out the formula. And usually,
and then on top of it, they have the Disney properties, right?
And then Disney often, not even often, Disney always, to their credit, because I mean, they don't need any credit for anything. But if they do deserve credit for one thing, is that in terms of the mainstream, they always know how to check the boxes. So they know what they're doing and they know how to appeal to the market.
Well, and that's everything. Disney has had that for a while, but to be able to go into this to
a while, is it like 100 years?
I know to make your main characters be continual parts of your product where you can keep the biggest pieces relevant in it at the same time. And Ravensberger, look, tip of cap. They figured it out. They did well. They were overproducing. That is my opinion. But I think they're at a point where they understand that they can create a little bit of market scarcity too, which bodes viable for their product, release.
I just gotta say, I mean, that was a great way to kind of wrap things up. Like how they have those like parodies online where it's like different songs that are supposed to be like emotional or inspirational, but it's like a recorder and it's like cracking. Erik, we need to get like a When You Wish Upon a Star version of that to play whenever we start talking about Disney. So it could be like just enough of a ripoff to where we how
about the mouse from the Mad Hatter's Tea Party? Twinkle, twinkle. Yeah. I love it.
Just something rough. Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you what, talking about bad things to try and do. Imagine putting on your favorite performers, clothing and going in cosplay to a concert and being rudely removed from a meet and greet. Imagine if that was you. Well, we're going to talk about that when we come back right here on the Collector's Desk.
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comicon.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comicon.com.
And welcome back to the Collector's Desk. We're back for the final segment of the show. We're going to be talking about, I didn't think if you talk about Barry Manilow, but we're going to, and wrestling. I'm very confused, but we're going to get there.
Hell of a combo.
But before we do that, real quick, guys, just want to let you know that we made an announcement here recently with PokeCon. One of our concepts is PokeCon X, which is our collaboration side. We've been working a lot of different collaborations with different show producers and businesses out there and so on. And we've announced our next one, and we're really excited about this one. And that is PokeCon will be going to SneakerCon. PokeCon X presents PokeCon Center at SneakerCon. We'll be bringing in around 25 vendors into the space that'll all be built out into a section that'll be presented by PokeCon. We'll have character meet and greets. We will have giveaways. We will have game experiences for people to come play. And what we're doing is really creating a destination within another event that gives you the ability to feel that this is definitely one of those, events that kind of becomes a little bit of a special area, right? And to do that. So we're excited to team up with the team over at SneakerCon and present this. So vendors are filling in right now. I'm getting notifications of vendors that want to be involved with the concept. It's a single day show, July 18th. And I saw a note down there. So I guess Brendan Allen has offered his services to come out and be involved with the show. And you're more than welcome, sir. We'd love to. We'll make sure we have,
you're going to an event that centers around sneakers, and you didn't invite the guy that's got 400 pairs of sneakers. That's some bullshit.
Well, what's funny is that so when we do these things, when we do these collaborations, a lot of times I don't tell all of you guys. I don't tell the team that's involved. I don't tell them what's going on. I don't tell anybody. I finish the deal. I get the deal done. We lock down what it's going to be.
And then I leave us in the dark.
And then I present it to the team. But the reason I do that is because sometimes deals fall through. Things don't happen. And people have a tendency to get hyped up on things before they occur. And the fact that this is July 18th and we're turning around fairly quickly, being that this is July 1st.
You always want to lock it in a stone.
Right. Yeah. So for us, we just want to make sure that, we have everything in detail before we go out and do it. We've locked that together and done it. It's exciting for us. We love that we're able to continue to engage the community, keep the community involved, and create activation, right? That community involvement is a big part of what we are trying to do with the PokeCon brand, between PokeCon After Dark, and now the PokeCon Center concepts. I just think that, over time, this is going to provide us the ability to be able to touch a bunch of different markets and create a bunch of different things. With that said, creating different things, I teased it and I mentioned it, but the singer Barry Manilow, look, Copacabana is a real thing. Love that song. At the Copa. All right. Anyways, not going to sing that anytime soon. Although, I'm sure Brendan at some point will take me back to some type of wrestling themed karaoke.
It's actually fitting because later on we're going to have, of course, we'll wrap up our show as previously advertised with our Wrestling Mount Rushmore. And or wrestling promo Mount Rushmore. Likely The Rock will be on that monument for at least a couple of people. I mean, that's probably a safe bet. And of course, one of his most iconic moments is, checking Jonathan Coachman singing that exact song. So you gotta love it. Yeah,
it's very funny. So Barry Manilow, look, as a performer, he has been people's favorites forever. He's known as one of the longest tenured lounge singers in Las Vegas.
Survived lung cancer and came back to get on the stage to sing. That's pretty incredible.
Yes. And performing as well as ever.
Yeah,
really.
And the guy's a showman. Catalog. He's got a great show. I've seen, the ones that you needed to see in Vegas, outside of seeing Sammy Davis, because I got to Vegas right at the back end of like the very end of the Sammy Davis stuff that he was finishing. I never got that opportunity. But the rest of, the more current lounge style singers, the Tom Jones, those guys.
Would you call him a lounge singer? I would say he's more of a, I guess you could say he's a crooner. I guess you could say he's a crooner.
But not in the same way that Martin and Sinatra were.
I almost put him as like smooth jazz, though.
No, you're right.
Every time, here's the thing. He was never big enough to sell the arena, but he was always big enough to fill your showroom. Right.
Huh.
No.
And that was always treated as a lounge for a long time. That was a lounge you went to. You went to the lounge and there was a performer. Right?
And he
changed
also
to the showrooms. The showrooms all the showrooms are glorified lounges.
And let's also remember, unlike the other crooners, he wasn't just a singer. He did everything. He literally was like,
a bunch of those dudes were actual musicians though, that could pick up, because you look at Sinatra and stuff like that, but like there were a bunch of those dudes that could like play piano to hammer out a tune, and then they let their stage musicians take it and develop it or whatever. But like, Michael Jackson played 17 different instruments and started with a beatbox when he was laying stuff down. A bunch of those dudes are actually very, very musically talented, but on stage they're just holding.
Could you imagine if Michael Jackson had ever gotten a Vegas?
But that wasn't a part of their acts. For Sammy Davis, literally his actual act was to toggle through all the things you can do. Yeah.
But it's before we run out of time here.
This I think, this I think is important. Paul will really shed on this. Paul, you know how important the Barry Manilows and the different lounge style singers, as I call them, the crooners, whatever you want. how important they've been to the landscape of Vegas for so long, and the fandom behind it, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, even lately with Wayne Newton, I think at one point
he's number one. He has to.
Yeah, I
Even
mean,
if you're not a big
as
fan.
I was
keeping his plastic
exiting
surgeon
Vegas.
in business forever. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's instrumental. Unfortunately, the casinos are no longer bringing them in and spending the money on them. They want to four-wall the theater, which means you come in, you show me how much money you have to spend for advertising, then you guarantee me so much. You come and you rent my showroom, you bring your show, you make your money on that. Whereas
they
before,
want residencies,
the residencies. Whereas before, it was literally, no, we'll spend the money. We might even lose money on this guy, paying him. But they're the people that come see him are gonna gamble, and we'll make our money back.
They're gonna buy the
tickets. When you said the lose money thing, I immediately thought about Lance Burton's deal with MGM. Right. Lance Burton got paid an amount of money that they could never sell enough tickets to recover, but because they could advertise that the guy that was considered the best magician in the world at the time was at their place, the gaming revenues increased, and that's where
magicians are for another episode.
No, of course. Well, not necessarily, because you had a couple magicians that tried something. And that is, in the world of cosplay, people don't ask, they just do. Some cosplay is done in good taste, some cosplay is done in bad taste. However, fandom does exist, and fandom is a big deal. And when you have a fandom for a specific celebrity or a concept or a team, people have a tendency, they want to dress up, they want to be part of it, they have a lot of fun. And it turned out to be a couple of cosplayers, but one in particular makes a appearance at a Barry Manilow show with a VIP meet and greet add-on to the ticket. And from there, Brendan, tell us what happened.
All right. First of all, I want you to look at this jacket versus the previous picture. This man spent a lot of time getting a stage accurate cosplay of Barry Manilow. Yeah. And he and his business partner, who is also one of his backup singers, you can see she's in a themed outfit as well. So that's Wayne Denton and his business partner, Janet Martin. They paid £2,480 each. So $3,285 each to have a VIP front row seat and to meet and greet with Barry Manilow after the show. He gets backstage and security's like, oh no, His Barry Manilow's people came up and said, look, this is disrespectful. Take off the jacket, take off the hair, and you can go back there. Otherwise, you're not going to get your experience. And the guy's like, well, I'm bald. What do I do? And they're like, it's not our problem. So here's the thing.
Take it somewhere.
I don't know if there's a contract or a dress code or whatever that accompany these VIP tickets. Usually there is something that says that, if you're doing this, or this, you're going to get refused your thing or whatever. So I don't know if the guy didn't read it ahead of time or whether he overstepped or what. I don't know who's wrong here, but this immediately made me think of the professional wrestling stuff we've been talking about, where people show up to Cody Rhodes dressed as his late father, Dusty Rhodes, and they do impersonations. And the impersonations a lot of times are dead on, but they're also, exaggerating the lisp, and they're wearing padding in their suit to look fatter and stuff like that. And they're impersonating his dead father. So here's Barry Manilow. He's back on stage. This guy did an incredible job with his cosplay, but is this the place to do it when you're meeting Barry Manilow, to come up dressed as him for the meet and greet? Because he's going to use it for promotional stuff. Yeah. He is a professional Barry Manilow impersonator. He's going to use that photo for professional stuff. So there's probably many layers to why he didn't get that photo.
What I think could have been the thing, because as you were saying that, then I started thinking, okay, this guy is a, performer, right? Mm-hmm. That, mimics Barry Manilow. At some point, it's probably been brought across Barry's, desk. He's probably seen it. And, when you're a current act and there's acts that are pretending to be you, right? Mm-hmm. I can see that being a bigger deal than an act that no longer is there. I'm not saying the wrestling thing's right. I think in some areas it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I think time and place does matter. I think if you're getting into a private meet and greet, you don't go as the dude's dead father. I think that's bad taste. But you go to a show and you dress as Barry Manilow and you have fun with it and you're having a good time and you paid your money and you went and did it. Barry should go up there, take his picture, and look, if he wants to show a little gist towards it, give a dirty look to him in the picture. Right. I'd be like, what are you doing? right?
Make part of the bit based on the inside joke that it's ridiculous to begin
like that
with.
would make it 6 times more newsworthy and make you more newsworthy again. So whoever's on Barry's team that's telling him this is a good idea, in my opinion, they're making a huge mistake. But
well, Eric, you got to be familiar with this just because of proximity, right? And based off of your like coverage duties and your typical tasks throughout the year. The people who do it for major pop culture characters, who cosplays major pop culture characters at various places and hotspots in Hollywood and actually charge people to have their picture taken with them. It's almost become like a running joke. Exactly, yeah. And it's almost
I have a point to make about Barry Manilow's just general affectation with his fans. He's fantastic with his fans. So a man rushed the stage and was getting tackled by security. He had a piece of paper in his hand. He stuck it on the piano. Barry Manilow stopped playing piano for a second, continued singing, didn't miss a note, signed the thing and handed it to him just to get the guy off the stage. But he could have been like, throw this guy out. Like, what the hell is happening? He could have stopped the concert, but he didn't. He rolled with it. He is fantastic with his fans. So it's this specific thing that he took offense to or he took umbrage to for some reason. And we don't know what it is, but it's an interesting conversation.
But it also, Paul, I know you got some, but it ties really quick back into what Steve was saying and what I was saying to Eric in the sense that you have a weird kind of no man's land where the people almost are imposters impersonating, not even cosplaying, because they're charging to get their picture taken. But when the person is actually involved, like you just said, Brendan, or even what Steve was alluding to, when that person may show up to an event, or let's say you have someone cosplaying as a Star Wars character who's a part of, what is it, like the 501st fan club type of thing, and the next thing you know, that actor shows up to the convention who plays that character. That's cool. But it's different when they're not involved at all. Paul,
it's definitely setting.
Right.
Well, I mean, and it could also be just that his security staff or the powers that be were a little bit overzealous because had they asked Barry Manilow, hey, there's this guy, he does an impression of you, he might have been just like, yeah, whatever. He paid. How much did he pay? Bring him in, whatever.
A lot of times that's what a celebrity will do. They'll be like, how much did they pay? Bring him in.
How much did they pay to bring him in? Bring him in, whatever. Or they let him in and he's like, how dare you let this guy in? I don't know Barry Manilow. I think my friend has done wardrobe for him for all these years. I'll ask her, or maybe even have her on. She did wardrobe at Mad TV and then has toured with Rod Stewart and Kiss does all their wardrobe.
I bet you the Rod Stewart wardrobe and Barry Manilow wardrobe are almost interchangeable.
I would imagine so. I thought it was the same guy.
That's pretty funny. That's it. That's
like a matter of hair.
I've got kind of a funny story with Fred about Fred Willard where
wow, you're going way back. All right.
He was chatting.
How old are you again?
What's that?
I said, how old are you again? Fred Willard. Jesus Christ, man.
Fred, well, he just passed away not too long ago.
Well, he was in sitcom reruns for so long, almost up until the last few years of his life. Yeah. So he was kind of somewhat relevant in the television space, given the type of roles he played. Yeah. And he was great in all those bit roles.
100%. So a fan comes up and is monopolizing his time, and it's already been like 10, 15 minutes. So a buddy of mine who wrote for Mad TV and Saturday Night Live, who was actually working with Fred on their show in Vegas or wherever it was, goes up to him and goes, hey, listen, Fred, we've got this thing that we're supposed to be getting to. And Fred goes, hang on a minute. I'm talking to someone right here. I'm good. So he loved it. He spent an hour talking to the guy. He didn't care, but that's the kind of person he was. So who knows?
We're going to get to bringing celebrities gifts in a moment, because that's another weird thing, especially if it's homemade baked
for
gifts.
sure. Because that now I've seen that firsthand. Like, I can tell you that watching the wrestler Sting and what gets given to him.
Yeah, he needs another baseball bat. Go ahead, give him that.
Sorry, it's not even a baseball bag. It's more. This one guy, I don't even know how to explain it, but he brought him literally a 5 foot tall like logo for Sting and like all this, and like dude's like, look, I'm on a carry-on flight, like I'm not even staying the night. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but they graciously take it, and then there's all this stuff, and then unfortunately some of that stuff just doesn't live with them, and whatever. But it does, and we're talking, the whole thing of the impressions and all of this and everything takes me to that topic, which is the Mount Rushmore of, promo, right? Mm-hmm. For wrestling. over the years, because there's been some guys that are great at promo, and we're seeing a great one right now with Danhausen. Like the Danhausen promo it's on board. He stays. You know, it's funny when he's out of character, he's still on brand. Where he's out of character, he talks about the character.
Well, he's never out of character. He's wearing his human face paint. If you know the Danhausen like indie stuff, right.
And so he's very fun, very entertaining, and does a great job.
Very
Whereas,
nice, very evil.
I feel like right now in wrestling, I'm not seeing a lot of people that are great at promo. Look, if Roman Reigns could even figure out how to be good at promo, could you imagine how big of a wrestler he would be?
Well, that's because Roman shifted his basically gimmick to be the more silent type who has his wise man talking for him. But the ultimate reason why is because no one creates their own promos. Essentially,
I like how you threw Ultimate in there as a nod to the worst promo of all time.
Well, right, but that's very much true. It's called a promo, kid. You want to make in this business, you better learn how to cut one. But it's very much true. But ultimately, Steve, the reason why, and we could talk about this all day, I know we got to get to Rushmore, is because so often they're written by these backstage producers and agents as opposed to being thought of by themselves.
But you can tell
when somebody's got that.
Right? Like they can be written for them, but the difference is if you're any good at delivering it. Brock Lesnar cannot deliver a promo.
His promo last week was actually not that bad, though. He did an okay job.
Well, dude, if he's just starting to figure it out now, I hate to tell you, but he's quite a ways into his career.
All right, I want to do my Rushmore, and then
all right, let's go.
This is the
Go
definitive
ahead,
Rushmore. We don't even have to discuss
I sure hope
here.
you have seen on it now.
So Dusty Rhodes, Hard Times. That's all I got to say. Best promo ever given. Dusty Rhodes could work a crowd like nobody's business. They were all behind him. He was over every single place that he went. Stone Cold Steve Austin was pretty rough in the beginning, but then when he delivered at the King of the Ring with the Austin 316, that was improvised on the spot because Jake Roberts was doing his whole born again Christian thing, and it was the whole "you've got your John 316." Well, I'm gonna tell you, Austin 316 says, "I just whooped your." The greatest promo. ECW Paul Heyman and Jake the Snake Roberts. That is the definitive four. I don't give a crap what anybody says. Those are the four. That is the Rushmore of promos in all of professional wrestling history.
Can I ask a question of Brett before we do this?
Go ahead.
Paul Heyman or Jimmy Hart? I'll wait.
Paul Heyman.
Okay.
No.
Hands
Paul
down.
Heyman.
Because Jimmy Hart, the way he was as a hype guy, the way he was built to hype was
manager.
Better
manager. Jimmy Hart, better manager. Bobby Heenan, better manager. Paulie, better promo. Now, I will even say, as much as I love ECW, especially anti-network ECW Paul Heyman, I'll even throw in the advocate for Lesnar, and I'll throw in the wise man, the consigliere, if you will, for Paul Heyman. I'll include his entire body of work. And I also love the fact because, like you said, Steve, with professional wrestling, it's not just about the athletes. It's about all entertainers. It's about any professional wrestling personality. And Heyman makes the cut. He's in mine as well. I also have Dusty. He represented the common man, the blue-collar worker. Honestly, he probably appealed to people with his words in ways no one else ever did. I'm also going to throw the Hot Rod himself. We talked about him earlier. Rowdy Roddy Piper in my list as well. The Piper's Pit stuff, a lot of those were interviews, but they always went off the rails and ended with some of those explosive, brilliant, improvised rants ever. Those serve as some of the iconic promos of the time. I think Rowdy Piper may have been the best talker that the WWE ever could have had in that era because, like I said, Dusty, again, and Flair, who was kind of just left off as an honorable mention, they were so prominent in the territory days. But, of course, I'm rounding it out with Macho Man Randy Savage, who kind of took the mantle from Piper right after he kind of got going and picking up steam with the mega powers and everything, his stuff with Hogan. But really, it was his shtick. He could deliver that in a way no one could. He used concepts and just wordplay that no one else could. And just the charisma, Macho Man rounds it out. Of course, The Rock, Austin, those guys are in the honorable mention, but those are my four. But, Steve, as much as I love me the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, Paulie's my guy, man. That's my ultimate talker.
And again, I that's a question because I don't have Jimmy Hart on the list on a Rushmore for me. I do have a wild card on it, but the reason
is it Danhausen?
I have a wild card, which is not a wild card. I just think you guys are both grossly overlooking what he was, and that was Hulk Hogan's ability to just grab a microphone and say, "Listen, brother."
Right.
like that by itself, when you have 2 words that completely tell you that you're about to tell the other person off, right? Like, he was incredible. And I think of when Hogan went to NWO, right? Like, that promo of him going to NWO was a very, very big deal. So I do have Dusty Rhodes. I do have Hulk. I think that on the other side for me, from a promo standpoint, like a real good promo standpoint, I would be absolutely ridiculous to not pay attention to how good Ric Flair was. Right? Because Ric Flair was very, very good at the promo. And as far as like the more current guys go, The Rock was cool. I never felt like he was ever believable. I felt like he was okay as his character. I never was really big.
It was more delivery. It was more delivery than content about The Rock, always. Where Austin had great delivery, but Austin was more about the content.
Another guy that we're not mentioning that we should is Chris Jericho.
That's another great one.
Because Jericho was just really good at riling people up.
Well, it made me want to go to the bathroom every time they handed him a microphone. I was like, cool, it's piss break. Because I could not watch his fucking promos, man. He was a great wrestler. He had a great look. He was very athletic.
Jericho to me was just a guy that he was an antagonist the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was the truck driver that he made his private security system? That was like the funniest thing. It was just some random WWE.
Lance Cade or whatever.
No. There was a truck driver, Ralphus. There was a truck driver that he was like, hey, throw this T-shirt on, write security on it.
Like an
and so Ralphus started demanding a contract at some point because this dude is a toothless truck driver, and he was so over that he's like, "Yeah, I want to get paid more than the $150 a week you guys are paying me to do this extra stuff."
That's interesting. I've never heard anyone who says Jericho's had a bad promo. That may be Brennan's hottest take ever, really.
I never liked him.
Jericho, that's fair. Jericho's ability to me, he's kind of like his favorite band. And maybe it's because Brendan doesn't like the Beatles either. But I use this because Jericho always. But I say this is because Jericho literally always compares himself to the Beatles because they're his favorite band. They inspired him to constantly change and evolve.
I know exactly what it is. Jericho's band that he created,
Foggy
Straight. Brendan was offended. Brendan was offended because his band did not have bagpipes in it. I totally get it now. Makes sense.
Fozzie's catching strays. Fozzy had that one hit in like 2005, and then it was
there's no hit from Fozzy. There's zero hits
hit because it was on the WWE Madness album or whatever because it was
it wasn't even a hit. It was a song that ended up on an album somewhere.
So
it was not.
Paul's gonna have to deliver his WWE.
I didn't even get my fourth one. You guys took over it with Jericho. Steve. I didn't even say he was my guy.
Oh, who's your last one then?
I just said you're missing Jericho.
You're giving too many honorable mentions. Get to the fourth one. Let's go.
The fourth one to me, based on how he handled it over time, I was on the fence. It was either CM Punk or Cena.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give it to Cena. I think Cena just was a better guy.
Over the pipe bomb?
If you're going one promo, then absolutely not. But if you go body of work over a period of time in which he would walk in and say all the shit you want to say about me, that's fine. But I got one more thing to say. And that was Cena, right? He always had the one more thing to say, and he did have more mic drop moments than a lot of these guys would do.
Fair point. I'd put Punk above him, but that is a good argument because Cena, from literally the Dr. Thugonomics era to literally 6 months ago, could always deliver.
If you're doing Thugonomics, Cena, those were some promos.
Those were some fun ones.
Well, those were crazy, right?
Really quick.
The thing is him going in and doing that. So to me, Punk,
I love it.
Punk deserves to be there, but I think Cena just outshines him just enough.
Fair point. Really quick before we let Paul wrap it all up, can I just throw this one out there as a fun honorable mention that was a kind of a brief spurt, but everyone loved? Mick Foley's deranged Cactus Jack, I don't want to do this anymore promos in ECW. Yes. Where he's basically just saying, I've had enough of the fans, and he gets all dark and twisted. Kind of a similar type of thing that Jake the Snake did, but less menacing and more kind of like nervous, erratic.
The best one of those ever was the Paul Heyman
uneasiness.
Vince McMahon.
Oh, of course. I mean, pipe bomb was a big deal,
but that was foreseen, you know, the Paul Heyman telling off Vince was that was in the moment. 100%.
That's a difference. That's the difference between a shoot and a work shoot. The pipe bomb was a work shoot. What Paul did was not right.
Yeah, exactly. So
right,
speaking of Paul's,
speaking of Paul's,
Paul Heyman, the Paul Vato, Paul, what do you have for your Rushmore of wrestling promos?
Well, I would go with Ric Flair, Ric Flair, Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan, and
hitting all the beats. He's hitting all the beats.
And John Cena.
So
that's
he rolled
4, right?
Cena instead of Punk too. I just think, you know, again, for me, the Cena side of it is just purely simple that it
Longevity.
was consistent
Longevity.
for such a long period of time. And I can't recall outside of some of the heel stuff, you know, in this last year run, but prior to that, he really like, he always had something else. He always had something, and he always came in and said something you didn't expect him to say.
Well, and not to mention, I don't know him. I have friends that have worked with him, and just from what I see, he just seems to be one hell of a guy, and I would love to work with him. I'm putting it out there. But yeah, I just think John Cena is just
whoa. What are you doing? Hey, get out of there.
Not just a great wrestler,
Stop.
but also a great human being. Now, I know that he would
Get back
probably
in
love
there.
my book, The Kama Sushi.
That's funny, dude.
I know he would.
Yeah,
he would read it.
They let Paul talk finally.
That's funny.
You know what
Cover
happened.
to
Good
cover.
one, bro.
Hey,
You
can you
pulled
guys
one
make
on me.
so I can promote paulvato.com and Vato Coin?
Yeah, I think we're about done. I don't know. Yeah, I think
All right. So what we talking about? That's the show. All right, Paul, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead, Paul.
As you can see, I'm also wearing a Podstars hat. You can find me on
Hello?
Podstars. And I'm theater for young people. So yeah, I can't wait to get that invite to this PokeCon, SneakerCon. I wear my P-Rods. Only Nike.
Dev, turn off your compressor.
But I got the P-Rod going. I'll come out to the event.
What's that noise then?
Invite.